Hello and welcome to busyworksbeats.com. I need you guys to smash that like button to extend that S. Today I'm going to show you how to create melodies from scratch. We're going to use an R&B scale that always works. So let's hop straight into it. If you want the project files, go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. Let's go to the channel rack here. We're going to load up a plugin by hitting the plus button and then go into the plugin called Flex. Now you could use any instrument you want. Whenever you guys struggle with melody, try using stringed instruments, guitar, piano, strings. Things with strings. Go to the store tab, download all of the essential packs, which are free. Okay, so it says essential, whatever. Download those. Go to the library tab. They'll populate here once they're downloaded. So let's go to essential pianos. Let's go to Yamaha C7. Let's turn off the filter and the reverb and the limiter. And now we can play this. Okay, now let's right click and let's go to the piano roll. I'm just going to show you guys the notes that we're going to focus on. You don't have to use scale locking and all this. Okay, we're pretty much using all the black notes. Okay, so let's start here. Let's just map out the scale. And then we're using the 2 white notes that wrap around the set of 3 black notes. So right here on a real keyboard, it's easier to understand this, but there's a set of 3 black keys and we're gonna pick the white notes on the outside of these. So it's 1 and then 2. This is our scale. Okay, so we're gonna move this over just as a reference. And really you could do cool stuff like this. Okay, so you could just kind of run and create these little ideas that are very cool. Now I'm going to record some stuff by hand. Okay, let's tap out the tempo. Let's right click. Let's do something around 85 BPM. Okay, now the issue most people have with melody is they leave out the other components. So let me show you guys my 4-component system that I've created at busyworksbeats.com. The first component is called the top line. This is your memorable melody. Okay, the second component is called the harmony. This is where you add the glue to the track, usually through chords. Thirdly, we have what's called a contrast layer. This is usually a bass line, but this is the density of the track. And lastly, we have the rhythm. So for your compositions, even if you don't have drums, these are the layers of melody. So instead of asking yourself which sound to add, ask yourself, what's the purpose of the sound that I'm adding? And it will fit into one of these 4 categories. I also go further in my teaching where I teach about the expression layer. So the same way I could speak like this, which is very hyperbolic, or I could speak normally. So the same thing with each of these layers. For a contrast expression, for example, I might use a bass slide. Something that I normally wouldn't do in a bass line, just something very dramatic. So these are like your decorations on top of your melody composition, okay? So now that you guys understand that 4-component system, let's start actually mapping out something that works. So let's go back to our grid here. We're on pattern 1. Let's go to the channel rack, right click, go to the piano roll, and here's where we are right now. You guys will get the project files for free. So if I move too fast, just go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio, and you guys will get the project files for free. Okay, so now we have all the notes that we're going to use. Let's start mapping out the root note. I'm going to hit Alt to restore the velocity. If you don't see this at the bottom, grab your ellipses at the bottom, pull this up, and switch this to note velocity. Let's go to this. Now I like to produce in the playlist mode, so let's go to song mode, go to the pattern picker, and just drag this in. And we have to ask ourselves, what are we creating in this specific puzzle piece? So if we have this low note like this, chances are we're creating a contrast layer. So we're going to start off with the bass notes in this case. It's not always my approach. I'm just trying to make it simple for beginners. And we're just going up this series of notes. Okay, so C sharp, D sharp, F, and then F sharp. That sounds weird, so I'm going to skip. Okay, so we're going to stick with the black notes. Let's also pull this down an octave, hit Control down. Okay, let's copy these. Let's highlight these, hit Control, hit Shift, left click, and then hit Control up. Okay, so now we have a contrast layer. This serves as the density of our track. So we can hit Control B. Let's go to pattern 2, and let's use the same exact process. Let me just copy this. Let's go to pattern 2. Go inside the channel rack, go to pattern 2, right click, go inside your piano roll, hit Control V. We're just going to copy and paste that scale that we created. Okay, now we need to write chords for harmony, and this is the part that everybody skips. If I go deep with it, I have music theory courses, so I know I don't want to go too deep with it. But if you guys go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory essentials, that's our music theory bundle course. But it's, when we're writing melodies, it's really a harmony. It's really a chord split apart. Okay, so for example, that's really just one big chord. It's really just the F minor ninth chord with the raised third. Okay, so we're playing a chord. It just sounds melodic because we're spreading apart the notes. Even your chord progression is an actual chord split apart into two pieces. So everything comes down to harmony. Everything. Melody, chord progressions, bass lines, everything comes down to, even scales are pretty much chords. So when you understand that fundamental concept, the chord is the ground foundation for everything. Okay, so let's start off. We're going to keep this simple. I'm not going to make this super convoluted of a video. So just follow along, guys. It's too hard to explain everything about everything in one video. So what we're going to do is I'll show you a simple concept. When you have a scale, for example, if you want to harmonize this first note, we're going to pull this up an octave or two. And let's add this to the playlist so we can hear this in real time. All right, now whenever you want to harmonize, meaning add more notes to this. Now, my definition of a chord is 2 notes or more. That's the older definition of a chord. So you don't always need 3 notes playing to make it a chord in the old definition. And that makes chords make way more sense. Okay, so here we have C sharp, and we're going to skip every other note in this scale that we mapped out. So C sharp, skip D sharp, go to F. Skip F sharp, go to G. So then we have C, F, G sharp. Now we're doing the very basic and basic of basics here. So I'm trying to keep this beginner friendly. Okay, then we have D sharp. And then we're going to skip F, go to F sharp, skip G sharp, go to A. And then we have our chord just like that. So this is very vanilla, but I'll show you guys how to make it more soulful without doing too much. Okay, then we have C sharp and then D sharp. So here are the scale degrees harmonized. Now it's very bland and boring. Now this chord specifically to my ear sounds very like, what's the word? It just sounds not good. Okay, sounds dissonant. So let's count it out. It's 0, 1, 2, 3. That's a minor third. 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a minor triad. But let's figure out why it sounds weird. Maybe because I had the wrong root note. So the root note is G sharp. Now that sounds right, but this part doesn't sound good. So we need to figure out why it sounds bad. So let's take out this third. Okay, so it was that minor third that was making the sound weird. Okay, so we could do other things. I'm not going to bore you guys to tears, but we're going to just take this third and we're going to make this 0, 5, 7. So 0 is the root note, meaning point of rest. Count up from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will create a suspended fourth chord. We really don't need that. So what my ear wants to hear is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It wants to hear the major chord at the end, or the major triad, 5, 6, 7. So it wants to hear the major triad. So we'll experiment with which one we want, but the actual scale doesn't have C in it. See, I can just freestyle going up and down. Now this is a very vanilla chord. So now we need to revoice this. Here's where we get a little more intermediate to advanced. Just think of it this way. Everything above a certain point, we're going to pull down an octave. So everything above this A sharp for this specific chord, we're going to pull down. Only because I'm setting a limit to where the notes go. There's no like exact rule for this. And it sounds a little more cohesive than just sounding so vanilla like it did before, even though we're using simple triads. Let's take that harmony and let's copy and paste it. And now you guys can see visually what's missing from your melody. We need a top line. We need a rhythm. So we can have rhythm inside of any of these components. By the way, you could have rhythm in your chords. You could play rhythms like this. So that could be a rhythm playing with your chords. You could play rhythm in the contrast. So you get the gist. Okay, so rhythm can be in the top line. It can be, the main thing is you just don't want to clash rhythms. So when you decide on a pocket for your rhythm, you need to make sure every rhythm matches that pocket, or else you're going to sound very all over the place. So let's go to pattern 3, and now let's add a top line. Now the top line, I'm just going to freestyle by just playing up and down the scale. Now the ear tends to resonate and stick with 3 notes. So the top line usually gets memorized by a set of 3 things. So we're going to create this kind of pattern. Okay, let's make sure we can hear this. Okay. So we're going to go. So at the ends, I'm going to go dun, dun, dun at the very end of something. And that will kind of be the thing that identifies to the first time listener. So I forgot what I even played. So let's just copy that. Okay, so it goes dun, 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 and then it's just going to repeat again, starting from this point. So all we got to do is just copy this and paste it over and just make sure it lines up. Just like that. Just like that. So that's a very simple system. I really made it vanilla sounding just to show you guys. But here's what you could do from here. Let's highlight all these. Let's hit Control G, and then we can go over to the left side in the pattern picker, right click, transpose this. I like to transpose my stuff down 1, so -1. We're going to transpose all those notes down 1 note. And now we can go back and swap out the sound and be a little more creative when it comes to sound design. So let's switch it for like a nylon guitar. Okay, now let's add a couple effects. All right, now we're going to get a little more advanced only because these chords are from Bruno Mars that I'm about to play. So I don't expect the beginner to know these, but it's the same exact scale. It's all the black notes. So we're going to play, let me see here. Let's see. Okay, so let's just get the right instrument going. I feel like that instrument's a little... We really need an E piano, but I don't think they have any E pianos, so we're going to use... Oh, they have an electric piano. Okay, so let's turn that off. All right, so I'm going to play it by hand. So the chords are... Let me show you guys the chords. Again, you don't have to memorize it. I'm just going to show you some Bruno Mars chords. So here's the first chord. Second chord, all the black notes. Third chord. Fourth chord. Okay, so let's record that in. Man, I was thinking too much. It's been a while since I played this. Okay. Man, it's like when you hit record, your brain just stutters. Okay, so this is the chord progression, very close-knit notes. Okay, so it's pretty much done. Now, the way you play the chords, you can spread it out to where it's like. Okay, so you can make it melodic by simply just spreading out those chord notes. That's why I said everything is really just harmony. So let's play it in a more melodic way. Same exact chords. Goodness, y'all, I was on a different pattern and it's still. Okay, let's do this again. Okay, so I just spread it out. So this is the thing that makes a chord melodic, is time difference. Same exact concept. We're just playing the notes spread. Now what we can do to contrast this is maybe raise this up an octave and combine it with the chord. That's a lot of movement. Okay, so I'm just showing you guys. Now I played really fast in the first hand, so this is not keeping up with that pacing. So this needs to be halved like this. I forgot the chord here, so that's not going to make sense musically. But that's how you can add these higher layers of your chords to your chords to make it just sound like an echo. So also you can just move stuff around by hitting shift. So it's almost like creating your own delay, call and response delay. It's just you control the notes. Now what we're going to do is swap out the instrument because the ear is confusing too many of the tones. And I didn't play perfectly, y'all, so this is just an example. I got the third chord on. Oh, that's why I messed up. Okay, I played the wrong chord here. Okay, that was my bad. All right, so let's go in and just add this chord that I meant to play. There we go. Let's record that in. Okay, so now it flows with the chords. Again, we're just playing rhythmically the chords. So now I'm just making little edits to make it fit the grid. Let's hear this in context. Okay, now what we can do is go in, because these are FL Studio plugins, we can add pitch bends. Now, one style of pitch bend I didn't talk about is singular note pitch bend. So really it's a harmony and a harmony expression layer, I would call this. So for the guitar, let's add more expression to this. Now, let's say I want to pitch bend a note. So usually I'll pitch bend the first chord, and I'm trying to think of an easy way to think about this. On the pitch wheel, when you hold the pitch wheel down, play a note, It's usually 200 cents away, meaning 2 notes. So I want to create that same effect before a chord. So a chord might be like this. Okay, so I want to add that effect to here, but if we simply add a note 2 notes down, 1, 2, and make this a slide note, it's going to slide down. So we actually want to slide everything up. So let's add this note for 2 notes higher than the highest note, 1, 2. And we have to transpose everything down to. And then just give this a set limit. But everything else, this is the tricky part, everything else has to be set back. So this only affects that first note. It is a little tricky on how to actually accomplish this technique. I guess the easier way to think about it, let's keep all the notes the same. Actually, I just thought of a faster way or a different way. Let's make this top note a slide note. And then we're going to go down 2 notes from here and add a note. So this should, I don't think it's the same sound actually. So I'm going to use my first gut thought process, but it is a little difficult when this is why I said try to invest in a MIDI controller if you guys can. It really does open up tons of expression in your melodies. So if you feel like your melodies are stuck, chances are your MIDI controller needs to be updated. So let's pull this down 2 notes. So it goes whirring. So sliding these first 2 notes up to F. Now what we can do again is kind of add these little slide notes. But it slides all the notes, as you guys can hear. Sounds like a tape stop. So instead of tape stopping everything, we can either go to the top note or the bottom note. In this case, let's go to the top note. Let's double click this, change the MIDI channel. It's not a color, it's also a MIDI channel here. Let's double click, make it the same exact MIDI channel. And now only this purple note will slide to this purple note. I learned this from Synthit. Shout out to Synthit. Now we can make all the top notes channel 5, for example, and just add slides only to the top notes. So I'll pause the video and do that. I also like to slide down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes. This goes to the perfect 5th. So you really can't tell because the notes are so high up. Let's turn off the keys. See with me. It's very subtle. But adding these little pitch movements, grip the ear. Let me show you guys one more kind of harmony technique, which is just simply octaves. So like right here where we hold a long note, you could just copy it and just pull this note up an octave. I learned this from Brix Domain. He reminded me of this technique. Shout out to Brix Domain. So let's do this for 2 octaves. Now this might not sound good because this piano itself. Okay, so we're gonna chop this. Now it sounds decent, but a real piano wouldn't be that harsh sounding. Let's chop this. Let's turn these higher notes down. Just so it's not so aggressive on the ear. So I'm hitting Alt-X to manage all these velocities at once. So it says Rhodes, but let's see if it feels like a Rhodes. But see how harmony is really just stacking on itself here? It sounds really complex, even though we're not doing really much of anything, except for timing. So is it the greatest melody in the world? Not necessarily, because we didn't really sit here and play a crazy melody, but that is the technique I like to use. I'll keep it at that level because that was kind of leaning into more advanced stuff. But if you guys want to learn more music theory, go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory essentials. If you just want to get straight into our training, go to busyworksbeats.com/black. That's where we have all of our stuff. We have 4,000 plus sounds in there. We have 4 plugins with 1,000 plus presets. And then we also have 90 courses on music production, everything from sound design, music theory, mixing, arrangement, FL Studio, Logic Pro. Go to busyworksbeats.com/black to learn more. All right, guys, subscribe if you're new. Peace.